I was busy all day. I did nothing. And somehow, I'm exhausted. Not I climbed a mountain exhausted. Not I solved a crisis exhausted. More like, I opened my laptop at 10 in the morning, blinked twice, answered one message in my head, did not answer it in real life, checked the time, and suddenly it was 4:23. Very suspicious, because technically, I had a plan. A good plan, a realistic plan. Nothing dramatic. 3 small tasks, reply to 2 emails, edit 1 draft, send 1 file. That was it. That was the whole empire. 3 little things. A normal person would look at that list and think, okay, manageable. My brain looked at it and said, interesting. But what if we first check 1 message? Just 1. For context, for safety, for emotional preparation. And that's where the day started leaking. Because the message wasn't even scary. That's the offensive part. It wasn't a disaster. It wasn't urgent. It wasn't even rude. It was just one of those messages that uses too many polite words to ask one simple thing. Quick clarification. First lie. Nothing that starts with quick clarification is quick. It is never quick. It is a little trap wearing office shoes. The email said, just a small question regarding the previous discussion about the alignment of expectations in relation to the potential adjustment of the initial draft that was not final but still shared for review. Let me know your thoughts. My thoughts? My thoughts left the room. They packed a bag. They said, good luck, Fox. We are not trained for this sentence. And I just sat there, looking at the screen, trying to understand why a message with no danger, no emergency, and no real conflict made me feel like I had been assigned a side quest by a cursed committee. Because here's the thing, it wasn't about the email. It was about the switch. That tiny little mental switch where your brain goes from, I have 3 simple tasks to, I need to understand the entire emotional architecture of this message before I respond. What does she mean by alignment? Was the draft bad? Was I supposed to know it was bad? Is shared for review passive-aggressive? Is let me know your thoughts a normal phrase? Or is it a door with teeth? And suddenly, you are not replying to an email. You are building a psychological profile of a person who probably just wanted the file. That's the problem with overthinking. It doesn't feel like chaos from the inside. It feels like responsibility. It feels like being careful. It feels like, I should think this through. I should not answer too fast. I should not misunderstand. I should not sound weird. I should not create a problem. So you wait. Not because you don't care, because you care too precisely. And while you're waiting, the task does not disappear. It sits there, quietly, growing teeth. Then the second task starts looking at you. Edit draft. Cute. Simple words. Edit. Draft. 2 harmless little nouns, except now the draft is connected to the email. And the email is connected to expectations. And expectations are connected to the invisible court in your head where every version of you is somehow guilty. So now you can't edit the draft either. Because what if you edit it wrong? What if you fix the wrong thing? What if the problem was never the draft? What if the problem was the fact that you are the kind of person who needs 3 hours to answer? Sure, I'll check. And then comes the third task. Send file. The easiest one. Technically, you already have the file. The file exists. The file is not hiding. The file did not move to another country. And still, somehow, sending it feels like opening a portal. Because sending the file means the day becomes real. Someone receives it. Someone may answer. Another message may appear. Another clarification. Another quick thing. Another little doorway into a room you did not agree to enter. So instead, you do something very reasonable. You reorganize your desktop. You rename one folder. You check if the coffee is still warm. It is not. You make another coffee. You open the document. You scroll. You close the document. You open it again. You read the same sentence 5 times. You think, I should probably eat. You don't eat. You check the email again. Still there. Rude. At some point, the day starts feeling like evidence against you. The sun moves. The room changes. Your laptop is still open. The tasks are still small. And you're still tired. And that's when the shame tries to enter. Quietly. Like it owns the place. It says, you had the whole day. You did nothing. You are lazy. You are dramatic. You are making this harder than it is. But I don't think that's always true. Sometimes doing nothing is not nothing. Sometimes it's a whole invisible process. A negotiation. A freeze response in a cute little productivity outfit. A fight between the part of you that wants to move and the part of you that is terrified movement will create more noise. Because a task is rarely just a task. Not when you're already tired. Not when your brain treats every message like it might contain a hidden verdict. Not when your nervous system hears quick clarification and translates it as prepare for impact. So maybe the question is not, why didn't I do more? Maybe the better question is, what did this simple thing touch? What did my brain think it had to protect me from? Because yes, sometimes we procrastinate because we're distracted. Sometimes because we're bored. Sometimes because the task is annoying and we simply do not want to do it. Fair. But sometimes we freeze because the task is carrying more emotional weight than it should. A tiny email becomes a test. A draft becomes proof. A file becomes exposure. And the whole day becomes one long attempt to look functional while something inside keeps whispering, don't mess this up. Don't be seen failing. Don't open the next door. And then we call that laziness, which is almost funny, in a tragic little office sitcom way, because I was not relaxed. I was not resting. I was not peacefully ignoring my responsibilities. I was sitting there, fully stressed, achieving nothing, with the posture of someone being watched by a tribunal of imaginary managers. So no, I'm not saying every unproductive day is deep. Sometimes a trash bag attacks me and I lose the plot. But today I think I did not fail at 3 tasks. I got stuck at the doorway before them. And maybe that matters. Maybe the first useful thing is not forcing myself to become a productivity machine. Maybe the first useful thing is noticing the switch. The moment the task stopped being simple. The moment my brain added danger where there was only inconvenience. The moment reply to an email became, please prove you are competent, normal, clear, fast, emotionally stable, and impossible to misunderstand. No wonder I was tired. That's not an email. That's a personality exam with attachments. So here's what I'm taking from today. Not as a moral. I hate morals. More like a field note. When a tiny task feels impossible, I don't need to immediately insult myself. I can ask, what did this become in my head? A task? A threat? A test? A door? And if it became too big, maybe the answer is not to become stronger instantly. Maybe the answer is to make it small again, not answer the perfect email. Just write the ugly version, not fix the whole draft, just open the file, not finish the day correctly, just return to the room. One small movement, no ceremony, no dramatic trial, just the next visible thing. So yes, I was busy all day. I did almost nothing, and somehow, I'm exhausted, but maybe now I know why. And maybe tomorrow, when the system says, micro switch detected, I won't panic. I'll just look at the task, look at my brain, and say, cute. But we are not turning one email into a haunted mansion today. Not again. Probably. Okay, maybe a little. But this time, we're bringing a flashlight. So tell me, do you ever lose a whole day not because the task was hard, but because your brain made it mean too much?